Paltrocast now with Darren Paltrowitz. Get ready to listen to your favorite artists. The Paltrocast is starting real soon. New interviews, no auto-tune. The Paltrocast now. It's the Paltrocast now. It's the Paltrocast now. Paltrocast.
Thanks for listening to the Paltrocast with Darren Paltrowitz, and thanks to Steve Schiltz for that brilliant new theme song. On this episode of the Paltrocast, you'll hear 3 interviews with hardworking and successful entertainers. First up is my interview with Leif Garrett. Leif was, of course, one of the definitive teen idols of the 1970s, who also found fame as an actor and musician in the 1980s. He continues to work regularly, and he released an autobiography called Idle Truth last year in late 2019. I had the pleasure of speaking with Leif by phone in December 2019.
Thanks for calling right on time there. How's it going?
I'm good. How are you?
Great. Thank you very much. So much I want to ask you about. And I guess I'll first ask you about the book. How long did you spend writing it?
We signed a contract with the publisher in late summer, and it was originally going to be released on February 14th. How funny, right? Yeah. So it was kind of a rush thing. But, it was just too quick to get it done and to get it, done well. So we ended up moving the date back. But it took about a year.
When I talk to some people who make memoirs and they have to look back in the past, they say that they love to write, and other people say that they hate looking back at the past. Which one are you closer to?
This was a cathartic experience for me. This was some things that I held on to and kept, to myself for many, many years, over 40 years. And finally letting them, because they didn't sit well with me, and people know what I'm talking about when they read the book, that it was a cleansing of sorts, and really letting people know, the down and dirty dirt of reality of the situation,
And are you hoping that there's any takeaways from people who read the book, for example, that they think of you a certain way, or are you just really letting people think what they want?
Well, see, originally, it's funny, man. That's a really good question, because this book, for me, originally was for me to let people know who I am now, and because of everything I've gone through and everything I've done, about the person I am now and who I really am, because people have a lot of misconceived ideas about me. Everything from being a Scientologist to being a reborn again Christian to being nothing but a drug addict, and I really wanted to, set the record straight. I think that the publishers and my co-writer and everyone involved was really wanting to, and I think in the audience as well, was looking for a memoir about the days then, talking about, as if I'm letting them in on what I was doing then and what was really going on then. And it was that. I had a different way I wanted to do the book, but that'll be the second book. But this one it's like coming from a place of like a 15-year-old telling about what he went through back in the day when he was 15, 16, 17. The thing I want people to take away from this more than anything is really, it's your life. Ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Find out all the cross the T's, dot the I's, mind your P's and Q's. Ask all the questions,
So if I'm hearing you correctly, though, it sounds like you are planning on writing a second book.
Yes, sir.
That's absolutely a great thing to hear. Now, not everybody realizes that as a recording artist, you've actually taken a lot of risks over the years. And if I look at your album from 2007, for example, 3 Sides, you did some interesting covers, and it's a mix of songs that you're very famous for and songs that inspired you. And I hear Cheap Trick on there and Roxy Music. Are you listening to music all day? Are you that kind of guy?
I am that kind of guy. I love music. I always have. I like it just on in the background, even if I'm not paying full attention to it. But I'm one of those people that, when I buy a record or I hear something that I really like, a record, I say, LP, that I will listen to it until it's worn out, like over and over, and get everything out of it I can.
And do you have plans to record a new album? Because, of course, when somebody writes a book, people are starting to go, well, what else is there from them?
Yes, that's true. I will. I was actually planning on releasing something with the book, but I just didn't find the inspiration in the songs. I didn't have anything that I really felt that was worthy of doing that. I'm still always writing music and playing music. Like I still play at the Whiskey Go-Go, quite often during the year, just here and there, get up on the Ultimate Jam night and stuff like that, or different nights. Anyway, but yes, I will be releasing something in the future, before the end of the year, but more than anything, I really want to concentrate on film and television right now.
And you've been famous for so long that you've seen so many different cycles of fame. And when you were first at your first peak, there were conventions in terms of autograph signings where it was just, one person's there and signing autographs for hours. That went away, and now Comic-Cons are kind of everything. When did you start to notice that the Comic-Con business model and all that would be a good part of your living, and that a lot of your peers could be making a living doing that?
Well, that's interesting. I've done about, I think, 3 or 4 of them. And the thing I like about them is that you meet the people that are the names, on the letters. You actually get to meet the people who wrote the letters and bought the albums and stuff. But you can make quite a good living at it. That's not something, just for me, as much as I like meeting the fans and stuff, I feel kind of cheesy asking somebody for money for an autograph or for a photo, but that is part of my business, and as weird as it feels, it is a good way of making an income. I have not done it as much as many others. I know some people that make a living off of just that.
Do you have any entertainment aspirations besides TV, film, and music? For example, would you ever see yourself hosting a podcast one day?
Absolutely. That's something for sure. I also am very interested in the idea of having a radio program on Sirius or something like that. Like Jonesy has his Jonesy Jukebox, Steve Jones from the Pistols. He's got a very popular program, which is really cool, and it's a really good one. You should listen to it sometime. But I would love to do something like that. But also, I'm interested in. I'm writing a script right now as well, and then I've also, got a book that wouldn't be a memoir or an autobiography, something a little more along the lines of philosophical and approach to life.
Got it. So you're always creating. So looking back at everything, though, is there an accomplishment that you're most proud of? I didn't really catch that in the pages of your book. If there's a project that you look at as being your most prized possession and the things that you're most proud of.
Well, there are 2 things in particular. One is, and this is the first one, winning the Western Heritage Wrangler Award, which is a Cowboy Hall of Fame. I won that for portraying a Pony Express rider in an NBC miniseries called Peter Lundy and the Medicine Hat Stallion, and that I'm extremely proud of. The other thing is winning the job to do The Outsiders. That wasn't just given to me. It was a very intense casting to do that, and everybody on that film was doing the same thing. And nobody in that film was given the role; they had to earn it.
And of course, that's a film that still holds up today, that people still talk about. But one thing that's always bothered me about that movie is how bad the Stevie Wonder theme song is. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, it was okay. It wasn't his best work, I don't think. You're right. It was okay. I don't want to talk bad about Stevie because I admire the man like crazy. His stuff is absolutely phenomenal. But then some of his other stuff I think is really kind of chachi, pop boorish.
That's a diplomatic way of looking at it, and I appreciate that. So,
Yeah.
recapping everything here, there's another book coming from you. You may eventually do a radio kind of project. You're hoping to do more music in the future. You're playing the Whiskey A Go-Go often. So it sounds like you are working all the time and you're doing exactly what you want. And the memoir was a therapeutic process. Am I right? The brighter days are ahead?
You are right on the money. And yes. And everything, good or bad in my life, I look at as a lesson. Because if you don't, you can really get down about the things that happened that were bad. But if you take away that, it became a lesson and never let it happen again, then you win.
You've kind of answered this already, but my closing question is that I always say, any last words for the kids? Anything that you can add to that part?
Absolutely. Again, positivity is mindset is really such a major thing in life. There are always going to be people who will be jealous, or people that will try and drag you down because they don't have what you have, or they think that you owe them because you have something more than them. But that's just part of life, and it's okay. Just know who you're with and know your real friends. Know the people that are really a friend.
Paltrocast.
Next up is my interview with professional wrestler Tessa Blanchard. I spoke with Tessa in January, right before she made history in becoming the first ever world champion in Impact Wrestling. Tessa is, of course, a third-generation wrestler, and her fiancé Daga is also a notable wrestler. Tessa opened up about her acting aspirations and showed a more fun side of her than I expected before the chat.
Hi, Tessa, it's Darren. How's it going there today?
Good, how are you doing?
Doing great, and I have to say congratulations to all of your success so far in the last 2 years. 2020 looks to be another big year for you, especially with Hard to Kill kicking it off. Everyone is kind of in your corner this year. Does that affect how you approach a match at all?
I don't know. I've seen a little bit of a split response online, so I'm not sure. Sammy's got a few fans of his own, but I'm not quite sure. I'm trying to stay focused. I've been training really hard for this Sunday, so I try to just mute everything else out, and that way maybe the nerves won't get me as much this Sunday. But I put that pressure on myself, especially when you don't want to let people down. But Sammy and OVE have been in my path for the past 8 months, so that's been my main focus.
Please take this as a compliment that you're such a distinct performer and such an independently respected person that you're basically a brand. I'm wondering how much of that was by design and planning, and how much of that was just organic.
I don't think that I've particularly tried on purpose to brand myself. I'm not really sure. I love wrestling. I love pro wrestling. Whether it's against a man, whether it's against a woman, and I love the fact that I get to do it and be in the position that I am right now. And I feel like also when something is just right and something's meant to happen and it's easy, it is organic.
And people who've really dug into your history know that musical theater was something that was in your past. Do you ultimately hope to do more acting?
This is something that my manager and I talk about quite frequently. Because I would love that. I love doing the stunt work for Fighting with My Family, the Page movie, and working with The Rock on that. I loved being on set and just being around that sort of thing. And then growing up, I always did musical theater and was in different types of theater things that my parents put me in. I was in the Charlotte Children's Theater. I did the North Carolina Shakespeare recitation competition. I did all the school musicals in middle school and high school. I always loved it. And then I found my love for pro wrestling, and it's kind of like the best of both worlds. But ultimately, in the future, I would love that.
You don't have to blow anyone's cover if you don't want to, but is anyone else on the Impact roster also very theater-centric?
I feel like there's quite a few people. Brian Cage and I are super close friends, and he I've always said he would make a really great villain in like a Marvel movie. I'm trying to think. I know Taya does some acting stuff. She lives out in Cali. I know Kiera Hogan has talked about it before. I'm not sure. I feel like in our industry there are a lot of people who would love to dabble in both. But yeah, I can't think of any others.
Well, that's pretty great of an answer right there. So somebody like you that's in tip-top shape at all times, how much of that is genetics really, and how much of that is actually working hard all day, every day?
Oh gosh, I don't know if it's mostly genetics. When I first started wrestling, I had never lifted a weight in my life. I say that a little bit dramatically, but I didn't really know how to lift. I didn't know my body the way I know my body now. I didn't know how to do my arms and my back and my shoulders and my legs and my chest, and I didn't understand it. And now I know my body. I've experimented with different diets. I've tried different workouts and whatnot, and I know what works for me. I do feel like genetics play a little bit of a part in it, but I also feel like diet and workouts are super important as well. And without them, without like a strict diet and without putting your time in the gym, you're not going to ever get the results that you want.
And bringing it back to Hard to Kill, big match right here. How much of your 2020 do you know besides Hard to Kill?
Not too much. I have my schedule for 2020 from Impact. I have a few signings that I've booked out, not too far. I usually don't book things out way too far in advance because I don't know how I'm going to be feeling or if I'm going to want to travel that weekend. I don't know. And I have the freedom to make those choices and those decisions now, so I take advantage of it. Right now my focus is on Sunday and has been for the past month. I took December off to visit with family, which I hadn't in a while for the holidays, and it was nice. It was nice to rest and just visit with family and take a break from the work life and go be in real life for a while.
And going back to what I was asking, with your independent kind of spirit and all that, are there any goals that you mark towards 2020 in general? Are you the kind of person that writes down their goals and has the vision board, or at this point do you just let things happen?
I've always said since the beginning of my career that I want to make a history in a way that's unique to me. In a world or a time where women are having the first this and the first that, and we're given such a platform, I want to make history in this business in a way that's different than anybody else, and that is unique to me. And I feel like Impact is giving us the platform through intergender wrestling, which I perceive as just pro wrestling, to do just that. I set goals for myself that have never been accomplished by a female athlete. And that's just another thing that I'm going to be doing this Sunday is setting out for a goal that's never been accomplished by a female athlete.
And aside from wrestling and everything we talked about, is there something that you wish more people knew about you in general?
Not necessarily. I think I put just enough out there online, but I also have, I keep a sense of privacy as well. There is a lot that people don't know about me, hobbies and interests and whatnot. But I keep a sense of privacy just to keep a balance, I never want to be one of the people that get carried away and let the money and the fame change the person that they are. I work pretty decently to keep a balance and to stay grounded. So I think that keeping a sense of privacy is an important factor with that.
Well, I asked that part because sometimes you see people who are on television who are famous, they have hobbies that are very surprising that they've been sheltering for a lot of years. Like, for example, Rod Stewart was on a cover of a magazine recently for having built a train system. He's big into trains and all that. I didn't know if you had something like that where you said, well, actually, I own a deli. So I assume nothing like that for you.
Man, I wish I owned a deli. Let me think. We have some pretty fascinating family history, just outside of wrestling, too. My great-great uncle was the very first person to ever fly across the English Channel in a hot air balloon. That's a fun fact that nobody knows about me.
Wow, I'm not going to be able to top that one. So being mindful of your time here, Tessa, any last words for the kids?
Not too much. Thank you guys for having me on. This has been fun.
Paltrocast.
Last, and definitely not least, is my chat with Jason Wade and Steve Stout of the band ØZWALD. Jason is also the frontman and songwriter behind the band Lifehouse, while Steve notably worked with Lost Beach. The two recently released the album Born in a State, which we spoke about in addition to talking about Lifehouse, musical influences, and upcoming plans.
I really enjoy your new album. It's not exactly what I was expecting from you guys, even though I'd heard the covers you've done and all that. Were any of those songs originally slated to be Lifehouse songs in any way?
Definitely not. No, this has been this is our third record now, if you count the covers record. So we, we started this probably a year and a half ago overall, the project. And it was just out of let's do something that is not Lifehouse, let's do something that doesn't have, not that there's rules around that, but like a different, just what would we not put in that box, And we both just love the Beatles and Elliott Smith and stuff. And, I think it was kind of a like, let's chase that and the indie stuff. And I played guitar in Lifehouse as well. And I played in some indie bands before that. So I think it was kind of like blending all of those things together.
And a lot of people have used the term desert rock to describe your new album because of those California kind of influences. Did you know what the band was going to sound like before you started recording?
No, I think that the thing about this project with ØZWALD is I think every record is going to evolve into something different. Just how it started in its inception with me and Steve just kind of hanging out and like just trying a couple songs just for fun. Like we were just messing around and we're like, whoa, this is good. And then that turned into 3 songs, which turned into a whole record, that Sweet Delirium record, our first one, in like 2 weeks or something like that.
Yeah.
Really, really quickly. And so our whole kind of thing with this project is don't overthink anything and try not to like stay in one box longer than necessary if you feel like inspired to go try something else, which is, there's a lot of freedom to that.
And being that you both play in Lifehouse, what sort of expectations do you have in this band? Or is it really just a creative release and fun for you to do?
I think we kind of led with that, and our mantra from the beginning was like, we'll play shows if people want us to play shows or things like that. So, I think to be honest, it all kind of started with just like, let's write like 4 songs. We had like 2 weeks that we decided to go to the studio, and we were like, let's just try to write some stuff for fun and both sing and see what that sounds like. But I think it just kind of snowballed into a thing that is like a really fun outlet for us. And like Jay said, like when we find new records we really love, it's like, man, how did they get that guitar tone? How did they get that drum sound? So it kind of is more about the production side for us. Like we definitely prefer the studio side of things. And, it's also been a really fun way for us to meet some new folks and as producers, because we produce this stuff ourselves, obviously, and, produce some other artists that get it and like that sound and kind of want to find their way into that lane as well. So it's kind of just been a fun thing to fill out fill out the calendar for us.
And especially since Lifehouse is getting busy again, it's, for me, my, not frustration, but just, a little bit of a frustration just with how the old music business would work. It's like you would put one album out every 3 years because you would have to do endless promotion and, countless tours. And for me, it was like, 12 songs every 3 or 4 years just isn't enough. So our whole thing is like, our goal is to put out 2 albums, 2 LPs a year.
Yeah.
Just to kind of keep that creative flow going. And then you can still do like other projects and stuff. But yeah, it's nice to have an outlet.
That's all very ambitious, to say the least, that you're aiming to do that much music. But I also know that, Steve, besides the work that you did with Lost Beach, you yourself as a producer have a lot going on. Are you the sorts of guys that are just writing every day, writing all the time?
Yeah, I think it goes through phases. I think it's funny because there are so many hats. It's like there's songwriter guy. We have like a little record label called ØZWALD Records. So there's like label guy, and then there's producer guy, which sort of mixer guy, I guess. And then there's like live guys, which is funny when we don't do that for a while because you're like, oh man, we gotta rock, And that's always fun to like practice back up for that. But I think it'll go through like hyper focus moments of like, I think a lot of times, especially if we're like either together for like a solid week and we're like, let's just start a bunch of songs, or if we're separate and like I have a studio at my house, Jay has a studio here, and it's just, you know, like, I think you just kind of know that moment where it's like, we don't really have any songs right now and we need songs, versus like we have a ton of songs and then
or like we've done too much and we're like, oh, okay, I need to take like a week off and
I need to go watch some movies.
Such a guitarist. It's like, it's hard to find that balance too, where, because I think both of us get so excited with the creative process where we become like little kids in a candy shop with like new keyboards or like new plugins or new mics, and we want to try everything. And then I think that like we kind of like tucker ourselves out where it's like, okay, we need to take a couple days break.
Yeah.
Do you guys manage the project yourself? Because obviously Lifehouse has a traditional manager and booking agent, but it seems like you guys are doing everything yourselves on this one.
Yeah, and we have a third partner at our label, ØZWALD Records, Max Allen, who actually he mixed our entire first record, and he did a few of the mixes on this new record, and we've kind of really spearheaded it all together. And our Lifehouse manager, Jude, helps us out a little bit too when we really get stumped. But
we are kind of managing it all together, though.
Yeah, it's kind of a bit of a brainchild of all that. So,
what was the original conversation that happened where you guys are like, "Hey, do you want to write some music outside of Lifehouse?" How does that happen?
I think that initially, my main engineer kind of left and went on the road with this other band, and so I don't really run Pro Tools or do any of that stuff. So I do like an engineer to facilitate me writing songs and stuff, which I did a lot on my own with Lifehouse. I collaborated with our manager Jude a little bit, but I did a lot of it on my own with just an engineer. And so Winnie kind of went into a different direction, right? I called you.
Yeah. We were on a tour, a Lifehouse tour, and you kind of gave me the heads up. When he was on the tour, he was out with us for that, and you were like, I think he's going to get really busy. You know, I probably will need a new engineer. And so I came home from that tour and I was like, I'm going to go produce everything I can so I can like figure this out and get better at it. And I've been doing it off and on for a long time, but Lost Beach was like, I think that's when I started that project with my friend Johnny, and we kind of just made a couple records like on our own, and that was like a really good way to, you know, just get like better at that stuff. And then it was funny, the moment of like, oh, we can use Logic too, because I was a Logic guy versus not so much Pro Tools. And I thought that was the hurdle. But yeah, I think and then we were like, let's write a couple songs just for, you know, submit them to Sony because you're with them.
Yeah, just like I think we were just like, let's write a couple like TV songs or something. And then we wrote them. We're like, well, this is way better than we thought it was going to be. Like maybe too good to be that. Yeah. And so like, honestly, like the whole thing happened so organically, it wasn't predetermined at all or premeditated. And I think that's why it worked and why I was excited, because I was kind of feeling, just, you know, I was just writing a lot of songs for other people and doing like some sync stuff and like taking a break from Lifehouse. And it really just reminded me of like a really pure chemistry and collaboration that you can never plan that, you know? So we just kind of went with it, and that's where it started.
And when it comes to influences, you guys, of course, have the right influences, but did you guys ever find yourselves hair metal guys or Van Halen guys or Kiss guys, anything like that?
Oh, dude, I started with Van Halen hardcore in high school. I knew every song. I couldn't do the hard solos, like the jump solo. Could never do it. But like Panama, Eruption. I think I could play Eruption at one point in my life.
I think my mom was really conservative growing up, and she didn't let me listen to that much music. And so as soon as I like moved out of the house, I think I skipped that phase and went straight, because I was at the age where it was like I was obsessed with Nirvana and Pearl Jam and like all the Seattle bands and stuff. And then that augmented into like a love for the Beatles. Like it was such a musical discovery for me between the ages of like 16 and 19. And then I found Elliott Smith, who became one of my all-time favorite songwriters and artists. So yeah, I think I definitely have an appreciation for it, but I think that I missed that and then kind of went to the post-grunge thing.
So you never had a Motley Crue kind of phase?
No, not really. I mean, I definitely appreciate it. Our bass player in Lifehouse loves.
He loves to rock. Yeah, I think he loves that stuff. I love that stuff still. I have such a soft spot in my heart for that. My dad plays music. He plays keys, and we had like a cover band in high school. And like Journey too. Oh, Journey's is number one for sure. And
so nostalgic.
Yeah, that's them. I would go through 6-month phases. I would just get like super obsessed with one band, and it was like Van Halen. I think Rush was one of them. I think the Doobie Brothers were one of
all over the place. I like that.
But there's so much to learn from all those bands, and then it was like, I think you discover. Then I think I like kind of like circled back to like the '90s stuff, and then got into the indie stuff later on. You got to the indie stuff basically sooner than I did. Funny enough, I think.
I think that you like music finds you sometimes when you're not even looking for it. You know, even like Elliott Smith for me, like I was signed to DreamWorks when I was like 18, 19 years old, and Elliott was on that label, and I remember someone giving me like a promo copy of XO, and just like driving back in my little really shitty truck, just kind of listening to it over and over and over and over, and just got obsessed with it while I was making No Name Face. So it's like I think that my songwriting kind of took a shift after that first Lifehouse record too, to be more I don't know, just conscious of chord changes and melody changes and stuff. Like it had a big influence on me.
2 quick questions, and then you guys are free. And the first one is the ØZWALD name. Did you know that you were going to have the O through it when you came up with the name? Is that also from the Danish alphabet?
I think I was like a fan of Borns and some other bands that were like, it just seemed like a rite of entry of like the indie thing. Jay came up with the name, and then I was like, let's cross through the O. There might be another there might have been another ØZWALD out there, and we needed to like do something to make it not the same too. I can't remember, but
I think that with the name, it's so tough too, right? Like finding a band name when you already have music. And I think that this one came really quickly because I think the music just reminded us of the name and vice versa. Like it just, the music sounded like ØZWALD felt like the music, you know?
I think it just looked cooler with the cross through it, like looking at it too. I think a lot of it is that. It's like your band name, it's crazy how like a font will make a difference of your band name feeling like a cool band name versus not, you know?
Totally. And there might have been a little like, can we clear this?
Band name. I think there's part of that.
Maybe we'll like cover our tracks.
Yeah, we'll just flash through that guy.
Great. So in closing, any last words for the kids?
Oh man. I don't know. I think just keep finding new bands that you love. You know, I think this whole record was like, you know, I moved to Nashville and met a new girlfriend, and I think I got stuck with music I liked, and it was like she showed me all these new bands that I was like, how did I not know these bands? You know, and there was this massive just like, holy crap, there are so many cool bands out there, and like we can do this, you know, like, and I think to me that's what the Born in the State record was. It was like, how do we kind of like channel a lot of like there's so many cool bands out there, like Cutworms and Fox Warren and Bonnie Doon that are doing the like full retro thing and like really leaning into it. And I think that, I don't know, I just think staying inspired and always trying to look for new music, even when you feel a little lazy and don't want to, I think that that's like the best advice to anyone.
Or just find inspiration anywhere you can, even if it's not from a band. Like it could come from like an indie film or I don't know, anywhere really, you know, you just always try to stay inspired.
Thanks for listening to the Paltrocast with Darren Paltrowitz, as produced by puregrainaudio.com. Theme song by Steve Schiltz. Audio mixed by Mark Piro. Until next time, have a great Shabbos.